to Egypt. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock will pay her first visit to Egypt from the 11th to the 12th of February. The purpose of the trip will be to discuss bilateral relations, cooperation in preparation for COP27, which is due to convene in Sharm el-Sheikh in November of 2022. This according to the German embassy in Cairo in a statement that was just released. Joining us to discuss further, Lawrence Messi, who's an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Lawrence, you're very welcome. Good morning to you. I think we should cut to the chase. Start with Germany and Egypt. There's no mystery here that there's some tensions between the Ukraine and Russia. Russia is one of the biggest gas suppliers to Europe, and there's whispers here and there that Germany is actually looking at Egypt as a possible alternative, even though the gas reserves, comparing them to Russia, is kind of small. But Egypt has rising LNG exports. Can you speak to that? To what Egypt's potential there?
Well, thanks for having me first. I'd like to first give you a glimpse as to Egypt's market position before I now go to the drivers of what's fueling this increase as a player in the space. Okay. So Egypt has about 2.1 billion cubic feet of natural gas reserves, which sounds a lot. But on a global scale, that's actually 16th place in terms of natural gas reserves. Okay. There are a lot of players with higher reserves. Well, Russia, of course, on top, Algeria above them, Saudi Arabia, and all of that. But now what's driving Egypt's predominance as a player in this space is down to three things: the market opportunity, its unutilized capacity, and its international relations. So in terms of the opportunity, as you said, rightly so, the tensions between Ukraine and Russia have basically caused some political response from the EU. So there have been some sanctions placed on Russia, and as such, about 34% or something around that range is being cut off from Europe. And so that opportunity is now there for Egypt to explore. Second is its unutilized capacity. So Egypt has two liquefaction plants. I think one in Idku and one in Damietta. I hope that's the pronunciation.
Yeah, you're close. Yeah.
Well, yeah, those are two plants where it's not utilizing its full capacity. And they have agreements with Israel and Cyprus, who export their excess natural gas to Egypt, and Egypt now liquefies them and exports to the EU. So these agreements serve as a market opportunity together with the crisis. And then last is its international relations. Egypt has good international diplomacy with the EU generally. So these three factors contribute to explain why Egypt is now becoming a rising player in the LNG market space in Europe.
Great stuff. Thank you for that. So when we think about this visit of Germany's foreign minister, Ms. Baerbock, what's the implications there, I guess, for Egypt, for the rest of Africa, international status and so on and so forth? How do you see that playing out?
For me personally, I think it's twofold. Reports state that she also wanted to look for cooperation opportunities, considering the UN Convention on Climate Change that's supposed to happen this year, where Egypt is supposed to host it.
That's big.
It's big.
Yeah, I mean, but go on.
It's actually quite big. Yeah. It says a lot about how far they've come, and I think this implies that Egypt has situated itself as a focal point in Africa for climate change and sustainability. So what's happening to the rest of Africa? I think you can see that a lot of African countries are also pulling up. Just last year, Gabon got some carbon credits for afforestation initiatives. So Egypt situating itself in that space, that's one impact of this visit. So the rest of Africa might follow suit. The second is Egypt actually locking in its position as a supplier to the EU? Because now it might mean it will have deals with not just Israel and Cyprus, but it might now have with Germany, and who knows, maybe to the rest of Western Europe. We saw natural gas crisis affect the whole of Europe last year, increasing prices of a lot of commodities. So with a supplier like Egypt, this could solve a lot of things. I'll just give you some quick data. So Egypt's production is about 6 to 7.2 billion cubic feet, but their domestic consumption is about 5 to 5.6. So they have an excess ranging between 1 to 2 billion cubic feet of natural gas. So, and this is per day. So if you accumulate it over the year, it actually translates to about 12 million tons of LNG in exports. And this accounts for 15% of the EU's LNG needs. So these deals might come in, even without Israel and Cyprus, they still stand a good chance of satisfying the EU's needs. So that's what this visit of the German foreign minister does. Two things: climate recognition and situation as a market player in LNG.
Very interesting. Let's get to South Africa. And I know how you characterize this unfortunate situation, I guess necessary situation, the job caps on foreign firms. I guess what does that do for the country? There's also the AFCTA. There's still all these, wrinkles here and there. But how do you see the South African decision, which is, coming up shortly? Yeah.
Well, I've had a lot of discussions with people, family members, friends, peers. You could criticize all you want, but the truth is the country's main responsibility, first and foremost, is to its people. But the question is this policy actually sustainable? So we have to look at other things, right? What was the cause of the unemployment in the first place? Why are they bringing migrants in? Is it lower? Are they agreeing for lower wages? Or is it a skill gap issue? So it's not just enough to impose a cap on migrant employment. You have to dig deeper to understand why. My perception is that from, as you said, an AFCTA standpoint, it kind of raises some question marks. I mean, the whole point of a free trade area is to ensure free mobility of labor and capital. But from a government responsibility standpoint, it would be looked at as fair by the South African demographic. But regardless of all of this, is that decision sustainable? So what do you need to look at? Do you need to look at maybe revising the cost structure of businesses so that paying higher wages won't be a problem? Or do you need to look at skills acquisitions and trainings to ensure that this policy is actually sustainable and that companies will be happy hiring South African locals?
Interesting. So I think I wanted to ask you about comparing Nigeria's unemployment situation and South Africa too. I think Namibia is up there in top 3, but we'll have to discuss that at another time. Lawrence Messi, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company Limited. Thanks for joining us to talk about Egypt's LNG potential and also South Africa's latest policy to address this unemployment issue. Thanks so much.